I'm Jason Walsh. I'm a trainer in Los Angeles, and I get actors ready for movies. Most of the time, it's going to be something where a studio comes to me and asks me about prepping someone for a role. What we do is we literally have to sit down and figure out what the characteristics are of that role, the variables involved, meaning like, are they going to be in the desert? Are they going to be carrying heavy weight, an exoskeleton? How physical is the role? But a lot of it has to do with, background. Are they a novice? Have they ever trained like this before? Believe it or not, what we're doing is really helping these guys with character building. I want to enforce that character. I want them to feel super free of any type of psychological hindrances. I take a lot of pride in making these guys super strong, move well, fit, resilient, confident, and do it safely. These guys get injured, production shuts down, millions of dollars out the door. Training for a military role. Bradley Cooper came to me through John Krasinski, and he got this big role for American Sniper. For Bradley, it's all in. He wants to become that character. Chris Kyle, 225 pounds, military guy, highly respected and decorated. Bradley Cooper, 185 pounds wet, novice, never trained like this before, not like this, not the kind of weight training that we were going to have to do. I'm going to be honest with you, this was the one that I was most worried about in my career because I didn't know if we could achieve what he wanted to achieve. We had almost 12 weeks total. I think it was the first 8 weeks that we were doing two-a-days. I mean, we had a lot. I thought maybe 20, 25 pounds was doable in that time frame that we had. 40 pounds heavier is a big deal. We had to get him moving. We had to get the weights going. I decided that this was the move, the trap bar deadlift, that we were going to pretty much make the foundation of everything. There's two variables here that I can play with, and that is the range of motion and the weight. We started safe, and we started at a high position. We started light. As I see him progress and get better, we can take those down. So we got Bradley really strong. And as we progressed, he became more mobile. He could actually lift from the ground. And the confidence and everything that came with that, I mean, literally, it was amazing to watch the transformation. We actually ended up, towards the end of it, lifting a little over 425 pounds. You cannot fake the way 400 pounds feels when you lift it off the ground. So in the movie, that's real. We ended up doing, I think it was 4 days of two-a-days. He would come in the mornings, 6 a.m. We would train for an hour, hour and a half. He would go home and recover. He would come back. We'd do a lot of the volume training in the afternoons. And then he would do a half day on Wednesday. And that was his week. He didn't need to get ripped. He needed to get big. And that's a big difference. I knew that there's no way in hell that that guy was going to eat as many calories as he needed to put that kind of mass on. So we had to drink the calories. So I just progressed it week by week to try to increase a little bit at a time, 500 calories or so. I knew that we had been doing a really good job. Once we hit the 200 mark from the 180 mark, everything started rolling. His body just couldn't get enough of it. He was recovering. He was doing everything he needed to do. And it wasn't until the day before shooting that we got him on the scale, and it literally read 225, and I couldn't even believe it. When you think John Krasinski, you think The Office. And he came in with this big smile on his face and was telling me about the possibility of this movie, 13 Hours, and he was going to play a Navy SEAL, way outside of his comedic roles that he's been doing. You wouldn't know it if you just looked at him, but he is extremely strong. The first 4 weeks, we did all strength training. It was 2-a-days, 4 days a week, half day on Wednesday.
I was like, let's do it. Let's get the bench press going. He's like, no, you're going to drag that sled from there to there. And I was like, how hard is that? I'm having a heart attack.
We had the luxury of working with John for quite a while before we started shooting 13 Hours. I was very confident in John's ability to move, so all we had to do was turn the dial up for him. Every day we would end up doing some sort of squatting variation. We'd do front squat to press, great complex exercise, and we would also have him start doing just overhead press. Still engaging the whole body while doing the pressing, so it's even more taxing on the body. Love the dumbbell bench press. I just like the fact that each arm is working independently of one another. And John crushed it, man. He was doing over 100-pound dumbbells. Not to mention that we ended up doing a lot of conditioning as well that was going to help with that, the fat burning effect. A lot of high-intensity training, pushing the sled back and forth, picking weights up, slamming it down, jumping, running, pushing, all of that with little to no rest. It definitely comes across on screen when they put this kind of work in.
Let's go! We gotta move!
So I was training Emily Blunt for a while with John. Those two in the gym at the same time is absolutely hilarious. They're the most comedic people I've ever seen. Nothing really gets done in the gym, so we had to separate them because we had a lot of work to do. Emily came in, she got her first action role. Edge of Tomorrow was fantastic. She had to wear an exoskeleton, and this thing weighed about 70 pounds. And day in, day out, shooting with 70 pounds on your back, that's a new one for me. This is what keeps my job pretty interesting too, because I never even thought that someone would be doing something like this. We ended up doing a lot of conditioning out on a track and using weight vests to kind of mimic that feeling of having that exterior skeleton and teaching her how to move with that weight on her back. We progress just like anything else. You're not going to go and you're going to put 50 pounds of weight vest on someone. So we would start with a 10-pound weight vest. 1 week we'd end up doing a 20-pound, a 30-pound, a 40-pound, eventually a 50-pound weight vest. I just wanted her to get an idea of what that was going to feel like and how hindering it is, because a 70-pound exoskeleton with day after day after day of moving could throw something out of whack. I don't know if you remember in the film, in that incredible scene where she's doing like the full-on push-up, it was kind of an epic scene, and I've actually had a lot of clients come to me saying I want to look like Emily Blunt. Brie Larson for Captain Marvel, she came to me because of Emily Blunt and the way that she looked and performed in that film.
Yes? What do you want?
Training to become a superhero. Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, she came in, she had the best mentality, she was ready to go. Anything we wanted to do, she was ready for it. We had the proper amount of 12 weeks, which I absolutely love. I knew we were going to knock it out of the park with her. To keep things interesting and fun, you kind of want to set goals. You want to set milestones for these guys, because we got week after week after week of training. So what we try to do is set these short-term and long-term goals that are realistic and sometimes unrealistic, but it's still nice to have them. So we would start with pull-ups. The unassisted pull-up is the big goal for a lot of our women in these action roles and whatnot, because it really just tells us where she's at with her upper body strength. You're told women aren't supposed to have a lot of upper body strength. That's bullshit. They get really, really, really strong pound for pound. For Brie, I think we ended up doing 10 pull-ups straight. 8 chain push-ups with 50 pounds of chains on her back, hip thrusting well over 300 some odd pounds. I mean, this is stuff that most women would think is absolute insanity. Think about it. If you're not able to do a pull-up and then a few weeks later I'm proving to you and you're doing pull-ups, think about what that's doing to you psychologically and mentally. I mean, it's just a reinforcement of who you are and what you're able to do. People don't believe something and then all of a sudden they're able to do these things. It just goes to show that that kind of hard work and dedication is really going to pay off. You get rid of those variables that could be holding you back and you're really able to focus on your acting.
You know how to fly this thing?
We'll see.
That's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Training for an athletic role. Allison Brie, wow, where to start with her? She's one of the absolute best humans I know. It doesn't matter if it's 6 a.m. She comes in the highest energy of anybody I've ever met in my life, and it's infectious, and everybody in the gym feeds off of it. I was training Allison for, I don't know, maybe even a couple years when she came to me telling me she's gonna be a wrestler. Here we go again with a brand new variable, never trained anybody like this before. Because we had such a nice cushion of time with her, we didn't really have to go into like a 2-a-day type setup. We just trained her 5 days a week. Allison Brie is one of the strongest girls that I know. Pound for pound, the girl's able to crank out 14 pull-ups. She's deadlifting over 200 pounds. She's pushing sleds with 300, 400 pounds on it. Sled training is an absolute staple in all the training that we do, especially for the females. It's a single leg exercise. It works strength, conditioning, everything. We can load it, unload it, pull it, push it. There's so many variations to it. The core is firing from each step, right? And it's this body coordination, and it's fantastic. It was one of our staples for her strength training. One of the biggest compliments I can get is after the shoot, the client comes back and was injury-free. For me, that's the most important thing. The aesthetic thing is fantastic, and I get it, but we want to keep these guys healthy. If you pay attention to Glow, Allison is really doing all of her stunts. And knock on wood, 2 seasons in, hasn't had any injuries.
Oh, you may have defeated me today, but this Cold War is only starting.
Training for a dance role. Emma Stone, La La Land. Emma came in and she had some issues with her neck and her back and shoulders and things like that. Those things have to be addressed. You don't work around them and hope that they go away. You really go in and try to attack any and all issues that could be holding her back. And for her, the training was a little less dramatic or invasive. A lot of stuff we did was really focusing in and around the hips and the stability and the strength around the hips because of the dancing element. Most of the stuff she was doing was on one leg. We did a lot of strength training, a lot of mobility drills, balance stuff, a lot of crawling for core and coordination and things like that. We didn't have as much time. We had about 6 weeks before shooting. It's a hard balance because you don't want to train her too much because she's got all the dance training and choreography and all that kind of stuff that's going on the outside. So what I did is I just actually ended up training her less days, giving her more recovery. And I think we were doing about 4 to 5 days for the first couple weeks, and then we just kind of tapered all the way through the end until she started shooting. We focused a lot on the posterior chain, a lot of pulling motions, things to get the muscles firing and protecting and stabilizing the spine. We were able to clean up most of the issues with her neck and back. If you can eliminate pain from someone that's been living with pain and they believe that that pain is just part of life, I mean, it's one of the highlights of what I get to do is if I can help eliminate those types of pains.